All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're jumping right into a rescue mission, and I mean that literally. We're going to break down this on-the-fly plan to save a gorgeous Victorian porch that's, well, it's about to completely fall apart. And the approach here is really cool. It's almost like a surgical procedure. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, you heard it right there. The renovator on site puts it pretty bluntly. The whole thing is basically collapsing. We're not talking about a little sag or a few cracked boards here. No, no, this thing is on the absolute brink. One wrong move and the entire porch could just pancake. So, just like any good surgeon, the very first step isn't to start cutting, right? It's all about the diagnosis. You've got to figure out exactly what's wrong with the patient here and, just how critical the situation really is.
And here's our patient. It's this beautiful old Victorian side porch. Now, right away, that temporary support post you see, that's a huge red flag. That thing is screaming emergency. So yeah, this isn't just some weekend repair job. This is a full-on intervention to save a really important piece of this home's history.
Okay, so the official diagnosis comes back, and it's not great. There are basically three major problems all ganging up to bring this porch down. First up, you've got critical structural failure. I mean, the bones of this thing are just giving out. Then there's advanced wood rot, which is really the disease that started it all. And to top it off, an active pest infestation, which is just a whole other can of worms.
And look, if you want to know just how bad this is, listen to this. The renovator says in some spots, there's basically not even wood anymore. I mean, let that sink in. It's not just rotten. It has completely disintegrated. It's literally turned to dust. And you just can't hold up a roof with dust, right?
And wherever you find this much rot, you're probably going to find pests. Sure enough, squirrels have moved in, they found this rotted out wood and are using it like their own personal superhighway, not just into the porch, but maybe even into the main house itself. So this is a really critical part. The porch problem is now a whole house problem.
Okay, so the diagnosis is clear. The patient is critical. It is time to prep for surgery. And that starts with what you could call a delicate demolition. It's all about carefully removing the diseased parts without hurting anything else. And the thinking here is it's really smart. The plan isn't to just go in with a sledgehammer and tear it all down. Not at all. Sure, the rotted header and some of that molding, they have to go. They're toast. But the main support posts, and this is the big one, the entire upper structure, that can be saved. And that single decision right there is what makes this whole rescue mission even possible.
So the process for taking it apart is super methodical. Step 1, you gently pry away that failed header. Step 2, carefully take off the decorative molding. You want to save that to put it back on later. And then step 3, clear out all that dust and gunk that's been building up in there for who knows how long. Every single move is done with so much care to avoid stressing the parts of the porch they're trying to save. All right, demolition's done, the operating table is officially prepped, so the next phase is all about the reconstruction. We're going to see how they rebuild this porch to be even stronger and more stable than it was before.
So the absolute first move in the rebuild is to get all that weight off the damaged area. You can see the roof has been jacked up, creating that gap. Now this does two really important things. First, it stabilizes the whole structure so it doesn't come crashing down. And second, it creates the physical space you need to actually slide that new support beam into place. And this right here, this is such a great, honest moment that shows you what real-world restoration is all about. Even when you have a solid plan, there's always that little bit of uncertainty. I'm not sure if the roof is high enough yet, Is the new piece going to fit? These are the kinds of questions you can only really answer in the moment. It's all about constantly adjusting as you go. And the sequence for putting it all back together is just as precise. First, they've got to mend any damage on those existing posts. Then, a new top plate goes in to create a solid, level surface to work from. After that, the big one. The new structural header slides right into place. And, for the finishing touch, that original molding gets reattached, which is what keeps all that great Victorian character. So, with the surgery basically complete, it's time for the final checkup.
Let's take a look at the big challenges and, more importantly, the major wins from this whole approach.
Okay, the biggest win here, hands down, is that they were able to save the entire upper section of the porch roof. I mean, can you imagine tearing all of that down and rebuilding it from scratch? It would have been a massive, massive job. By working underneath it, the renovators saved an unbelievable amount of time and also preserved so much more of that original historic structure.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The renovator himself calls the time saved a huge thing. Being able to replace that header without dismantling that whole complicated upper structure, well, that's what made this entire project doable in the first place.
But hey, it's not all smooth sailing and easy wins. There are always hidden challenges, right? In this case, it was the unbelievable amount of dust that was trapped inside that old structure. And that's a real-world safety issue. It means you got to wear a mask, you got to be prepared for all the, well, the less glamorous parts of bringing an old building back from the dead.
And that really leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? A project like this just perfectly highlights the big question in any restoration. What's the real challenge? Is it fixing the damage you can clearly see, like that rotten beam, or is it being prepared for everything you can't see? You know, the dust, the pests, the unexpected problems you're almost guaranteed to find along the way. Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.